Yeah, hello, good evening, everyone. Our topic, as you see, is a body and a soul. This is, according to my humble opinion, very, very important, essential issue to verify, clarify. It's very interesting, but much more than that, it's important. Because we have to know who we are, and if we will know who we are, we could relate to ourselves different than when we do not know who we are. So let's start from sources in the Torah. What I would try to do is to explain or give the information of what we know from our sources, Torah, Midrashim, and other sources, deeper sources, including Kabbalah, what we know about the connection between the body and the soul. The first place to start, no doubt, is the Psukim in the Torah. We go to Sefer Bereshit in Perek Bet, Pasuk Zayin. I don't know if I have to say this in English, yeah? Genesis 2, verse 7. וייצר השם אלוקים את האדם עפר מן האדמה ויפח באפיו נשמת חיים ויהי האדם לנפש חיה. You see the translation on the side? Basically, the information from this pasuk is Adam is a combination of two things. The source, the origin of the body is dust from earth. From that, Hashem created the body of a person. Into the body, look at the title, he blow Nishmat Chaim. This is the title of the Neshama, Nishmat Chaim. Chaim is life, so apparently according to the Pshat, the Afar min Adama is that just a dead body. In order to make this body alive, Hashem put the Neshama. The Neshama is the source of life who gives the body ability to live. Okay, so this is the basic information. I want to assume that you remember Sefer Bereshis, at least the first 3 prakim. And you remember the story. Hashem put Adam in Gan Eden. Later on he created Chava. And I'm not going to the details. It should be known. He commanded them not to eat from certain tree in the garden. There are many trees over there. One of them called Etz Hadat Tov Hara. Hashem told him, don't eat from it. If you eat, he told them in advance, you're going to die. Meaning, very important, the Nishmas Chaim will not give you Chaim anymore. It will separate the body and you're going to die. Just one little more emphasis. I just want to emphasize that as we know nature today, we know, quote, quote, that death is part of life. I mean, people and animals and everything live and die. According to the Torah, it's not like this. When Hashem put the Neshama inside the body, He put the Neshama inside the body in order for the Neshama to stay in the body and make it exist forever. The death was an option. And Hashem told him, if you will not eat from this tree, will be no death. It's very important to understand this because death is not a necessity. It came, actually Adam bring it on themselves because he didn't listen to God, to Hashem. Okay. After Adam sinned, and there is death, the big question, and this is the beginning of our topic, what happened at death, when the Neshama separated the body? So if we'll go first to the information in the Nevuah, in the Psukim, in the Tanakh, let's jump now from Sefer Bereshis, Perek Bet, to Sefer Kohelet, Perek Yud Bet. So Kohelet is one of the books that Shlomo HaMelech wrote, one of the 3. In English, I will never ever learn how to say this word, eklasesistest, whatever it is in English, okay? But this is the name of Sefer Kohelet. Chapter 12, verse 7. The pasuk says the following: "Veyashov he'afar el haaretz keshehaya, ve'aruach tashuv el ha'elokim asher netana." Again, translate the information here. We know that Adam is a combination of a body and the soul. The origin of the body is afar, dust. So what happened when a person dies? The body goes back to the dust, as it says in Bereshis, ki afar ata ve'el afar tashuv. But what we really interesting now, what happened to the Neshama? Look what the pasuk says. Ve'yashov ve'afar al haaretz keshehaya. The dust will return to the ground as it was. And haruach, here the translation is the spirit. I don't know. Haruach, which is the Neshama, tashuv el ha'elokim asher netana. So what actually written over here? That the Neshama never die. The Neshama just separates the body and goes back to Hashem. And here we'll operate our curiosity. What that means? What happened to the Neshama when it separates the body and goes back to Hashem? How it exists there? Do we have any information about this? So we do. And this is the thing that I want to share with you tonight. What happened to the Neshama when it separates the body? I just will add few more sources in brief from different places. The first one will be a Gemara in Masechet Yevamot. The Gemara in Masechet Yevamot says in Daf Samech Gimel Amud Bet 63, page 63, En Mashiach ben David ba ad sheyichlu kol haneshamot shebaguf. We have to understand this line. It's very, very not simple to understand it. It speaks about Mashiach. Mashiach is at the end of days, the end of the history. We'll talk about this in the shiur that we have tomorrow, Be'ezrat Hashem. What that means, what is the time of Mashiach? But when Mashiach will come, it will be a change in. It's a process, but at certain point in the process, after Mashiach will come, it will be a change in the reality. We'll go to move from this world to the next. But the information that the Gemara bring over here is the following. Mashiach could not come because of many, many reasons. One of them is this. All the neshamos should be gone. What is the meaning of this? Look at Rashi. This Gemara appears in two places, in Yevamot Samech Gimel and in Nida Daf Yud Gimel. Rashi relate to them in both places, and I want to start first from the quote of this Gemara from Maseches Nida Daf Yud Gimel and see what Rashi says there. So Rashi says the following: what is the meaning of Ad sheyichlu neshamot shebaguf? Explain Rashi. What is guf? Guf is cheder. What is cheder? Cheder is a room. Let me explain this. Cheder is a place when you have walls that make it a closed place. Cheder. Cheder, in English you say a room, right? Guf is not a body. Guf, okay, let's explain what guf first. What is the meaning of the word guf? The meaning of the word guf in Hebrew, in Lashon Kodesh, is divider or a cover. Like megufat asir, megufat chavit, the cover of the pot, called megufa in Hebrew, meaning kisui. So, if you talk about ourselves, we have a body which is a cover. What it's covering? It's covering the neshama. Okay? Here, this Gemara is not speaking about a human body. This Gemara speaks, and that's what Rashi explained. Let's continue in Rashi. Guf cheder. Guf is a room. Explain Rashi. What is the meaning over here of guf, of cheder? Shem makom hameyuchad laneshamot ha'atidim liyot noladim. It's a name of a place that over there are all the souls that still about to be born, never came to this world. They're waiting to their time to come to this world. So there is such a place in Shamayim. Of course, it's not physical place. It's those words are just a mashal, guf, cheder. It's a spiritual place. Over there, all the neshamas that gonna be ever in this world stayed over there. So, according to what Rashi says over here, if we go back to the Gemara says, Mashiach will come only after all the neshamas that should be born at certain point in the history will be born. Before that, Mashiach could not come because Mashiach is the conclusion. So when all the neshamas will come and connected to a body and be born and live in this world, then Mashiach ben David will come. Okay? I'm not talking now about Mashiach. That's not our topic. Maybe tomorrow I'll just a little bit mention that. But now we're interested to understand the neshama and where the neshama exists before it comes to the body. Okay, that was Rashi in Maseches Nida on this Gemara. Let's go to Rashi in Maseches Yevomes. He explained even a little bit more. Guf, says Rashi, pargod. What is a pargod? Pargod is a curtain, vilon. But Rashi add over here very mysterious things. Let's see. Guf, pargod, meaning a curtain, שחוצץ בין שכינה למלאכים, ושם רוחות ונשמות נתונות. Be aware of the following. שנבראו מששת ימי בראשית, העתידות להינתן בגופים העתידים להיברות. So again, he mentioned that there is a place that over there are all the souls, all the neshamas. But another piece of information, all the neshamas that will ever be in this world, all of them were created in Sheshes Yemei Bereshis. Meaning, our neshamas are much older than us. When a person is born, we see the body. In the body, of course, hopefully there is a neshama. But the neshama is not born now. The neshama created in the 6th day of the creation. Actually, not in the 6th day of the creation, but in the 6th day of the creation. I'll add to this a little bit more information. Hashem said, when Hashem created the neshama, ויצר השם אלוקים את האדם עפר מן האדמה, ויפח באפיו נשמת חיים. Hashem created one neshama only in the 6th day of the creation, and He put it in Adam. And this neshama of Adam Rishon include all the neshamot of all the descendants of Adam, and therefore we called Bnei Adam. We're not just physically Bnei Adam, but our neshama is part of the neshama of Adam Rishon, and more explanation will come. Now, where the neshama stayed or exists since Sheshet Yemei Bereshit, in this cheder, in this room, behind this pargod, which is a curtain. What is the meaning chotzetz ben shchina lamalachim? So here a little bit notions in Kabbalah. We have to know that we have the world divided to 4 realms, and the initials or the first letter of each one of them are Abiyah. Imagine a building with 4 floors. Every floor has a name. The first floor, the upper floor, called Atzilut. The one under it called Bri'ah. The one after it called Yetzirah. And the lower one called Asiyah. Abiyah. Atzilut, Bri'ah, Yetzirah, Asiyah. Kisei HaKavod is in Olam HaBriah, which is the 3rd floor from the bottom. The neshamas are there. If you ever heard that Haneshamot, Nishmot Israel, the souls of Bnei Israel, lekuchot mitachat kisei hakavod, they are from under kisei hakavod, meaning in the top, in the Olam HaBriah, the 3rd world from the bottom. The 2nd world, the 2nd realm, called Olam HaYetzirah, is the place where the Malachim is. The Malachim are the angels. So the divider between the 3rd floor to the 2nd floor, called Pargod. This is the divider. And the Neshamas is above it. In Olam HaBriah, שם רוחות ונשמות נתונות שנבראו מששת ימי בראשית, or they are there since Hashem created them in the 6th day of the creation, waiting to their time to come to this world. When a baby is born, someone over there is with an open microphone and a lot of noises are coming from there. So if you could mute it. Thank you. Okay, so when a baby is born in this world, 9 months before, something happened. The Gemara says in Maseches Kiddushin, Daf Lamed, Shlosha shutafim ba'adam. There are 3 partners in every human being. Aviv ve'imo ve'akadosh baruch hu. The partnership between the mother and the father started with the conception, 9 months before the baby actually born. At the same time, the third party, the third partner, which is Hashem, put the Neshama in the baby. Where Hashem take the Neshama from? He take this from Olam HaNeshamot, from this room, from this goof, spiritual goof in Shamayim, and he take a Neshama and put it in the body of this baby. Okay? So in principle, we could say that every Neshama has 3 states. State number 1, when the Neshama is a Neshama not connected to a body, meaning since Hashem created the Neshama in Sheshes Yemei Bereshit, it stayed as a Neshama waiting to its time to come to this world. State number 2, when the Neshama come and merge into the body, become inside the body. And then stage number 3 is when the Neshama separates the body after 120. Then the Neshama again is not connected to physical. The Neshama connected to a physical only in the second state, when the Neshama come from Shamayim and enter the body, stayed with the body as much as Hashem decided, ימי שנותינו בהם 70 שנה, ואם בגבורות 80 שנה, עד 120, all this time that the Neshama is in the body is state number 2. State number 3, when the Neshama separates the body. From all those, we're going to emphasize now on the transfer, or the time when the Neshama leave state 2 and go to state 3. When the Neshama leave the body and go to wherever it goes. So this is the focus of what we're going to do now. Okay. I'll skip you a few sources. I have just the source of what Rashi and the Gemara took it from. And this is the Medrash Tanchuma. The Medrash says, כל הנשמות שהיו מן אדם הראשון, כולם נבראו בששת ימי בראשית. Okay, that's enough for us now because we have a lot of amazing stuff that we have to cover. So as we said, the Neshama has 3 major states. State number 1, קודם היותה בגוף, before the Neshama was in a body. State number 2, while the Neshama is in the body. State number 3, after the Neshama was in the body and separate the body. Okay, now I want to, actually that was the introduction, and now let's start. We have an amazing information in the Torah and in science about what happened to the Neshama when the Neshama separated the body, at the time of the Ptira. Okay? What I will want to do is to give you, in brief, the summary of what science could say about this. And most important, from my point of view, is what our sources give us out of this. About this state of the Neshama. Few words just about the science. There are few areas in science that they try to challenge this topic. If there is any non-physical entity in the body when a person is alive, and what happened at the time of death. There are a few areas in science that cover or try to deal with this. One of them, and we could not cover today only this area, there are many more, but we're going to talk about something called NDE, initials of near-death experience. Near-death experience. So from all the things that was researched and found in the last almost 40 years since seriously they start to deal with this, I will basically relate to the work of Dr. Raymond Moody in a book. He wrote few books about the topic. He was a psychiatrist and a physician, and this combination gave him a very good background, very good ability to research these things. He wrote his books in the 80s, 40 years ago approximately, and I want to relate to the second book mentioned here. The first one was a bestseller called Life After Life, but he wrote after that few books. The next one that from it I want to quote few very interesting pieces of information is The Light Beyond. The Light Beyond. The areas just 1 minute. Okay. Over here I will be helped by my dear Rabbi that you know already, that she will just read the information in English to be much easier for me and for you. Okay, so the areas that was researched was
anabiosis, which were studies and commentaries on the near-death experience; life at death, a scientific investigation of near-death experience; and recollections of death, a medical investigation.
Sorry about this. Okay.
Okay, Gallup researchers have found that millions of people all over the world have experienced near-death experience, and many remember various details. In the year 1982, near-death experience research gained recognition, and the first International Scientific Association of NDE Research was founded in the University of Connecticut. As a result of the pioneering reports of Dr. Moody, Dr. E. Kabbalah-Ross, and others, hundreds of clinics have been doing research for years. 3 modes of OBE have been explored. What is OBE?
Out-of-body experience.
3 modes of out-of-body experience have been explored. One is near-death experience in collaboration with IC units in major hospitals. Second is out-of-body experience, which was induced by hypnosis or meditation.
This is very interesting area, but again, we do not have time to cover it or even touch it. Just I mentioned the
third
title.
is out-of-body experiences which were induced by chemical agents, such as, I'm not sure how to pronounce these either, catalar, mescaline, and psilocybin.
Yeah. So, okay. So through all of this was very interesting phenomena of being out of the body. All of those research that was done. But we will relate now to the first one, the near-death experience. What happened in near-death experience? Let me just explain in a big picture. Near-death experience is a situation that happened many, many times when it could be in different places or situations. Let's take the most common on the operation room. Could be that during operation, the body, the Neshama separate the body. I mean, the way you realize that medically, that you see that the AKG is straight line. There is no beats, no heartbeats. Now, that will, of course, create alert and panic, and everyone wants to, all the people, if that's an operation room, they will try to revive the person. And in many cases, they succeeded. After it clearly was no heartbeats. the ability to save the life of the person is if you restart the heart to work before damage, irreversible damage happened. So it happened many, many times, and they succeeded, with electric shocks, other things. You could revive the person. Now, during this time, something very interesting happening. The people that was interviewed after they went through such an experience, after that they could be completely recovered and be normal completely, and they even remember things, and they remember what happened to them when their heart stopped working. And they give an amazing information about what happened. Look at the details that they give. They report that they felt themselves out of their body. The way they described it, they say they felt themselves, or they were floating above their body. An amazing thing, and I want to show you something unbelievable about this second thing. They could explain, they could see from a very interesting point of view, because they're out of their body, they could see a situation that going around themselves, around the body, and they could report about it. They could hear sounds and voices. About their feelings when they were asked, what do you mean? How do you feel when you are out of the body? They said, we feel complete peace and painless. And the most amazing thing that they give in the interview that was made with them was the life review. We'll get to this and explain it even better. They said that in those few minutes that they find themselves out of their body, they saw the entire movie, their entire life in a movie in details. This is the life review. The other thing that they're reporting is encountering with other beings. Could be human beings that they knew and they passed away before them, or other beings that not human. We will see about all the... Okay, now, Dr. Moody made a lot of interviews with many, many patients of his and others. And many of them, you see the percentage of people who remember those things and report about it. Of course, in the science world, those things were not acceptable because most of the scientists do not believe in spirits, or they are more completely materialistic. So those researchers was very unique, and it was very suspicious from the science point of view. Okay, we'll try to... Okay, את רוצה לקרוא את זה? Okay. Come. Okay. There are things over here that my wife repeat. Things that we say.
With just a summary of exactly what my husband just said. The typical NDE experience was a sensation of leaving the body and being able to see the physical body while floating above it. A sensation of being drawn into a tunnel or darkness. Encounters with deceased loved ones or with other beings that may be identified as religious figures. A brilliant light at the end of the tunnel. A sense of overwhelming peace, well-being, or absolute unconditional love. And a life review or recall of important events in the past.
Okay. What we're going to do from now, after we, in brief, really in brief because we do not have time, so what's the summary of the research in NDE was, those reports, this information that we got from people who went through this. What I want to do now is to do the comparison or bring our sources from the Talmud, the Psukim, the Midrashim, the Kabbalah, what we know from our sages that pass it through the generations, versus or compare it to what was discovered in the last 40, 50 years through those researches. Okay, let's start from a Gemara of in Shabbos. The Gemara in Shabbos, in Daf Kuf Nun Bet, the Gemara in Shabbos bring the words of Rabbi Avau. Rabbi Avau says the following: Kol she'omrim bifnei hamet yodea ad sheyisatem hagolal. Everything that people said in the presence of a person who passed away and the body is in the room, he aware of what people say, even though he's dead. I mean, the Neshama is not in the body, but the Gemara says he knows, he understands everything what says in front of the body, ad sheyisatem hagolal, until the cover of the grave will be put. Until then, he is aware for everything that he is said. More than that, the Gemara in the next page, in Daf Kuf Nun Gimel, I'll bring from it two lines. Amar le Rav Shmuel Bar Shilat. Rav was one of the famous Amoraim in the first generation of the Amoraim. He was a Talmid of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. So his disciple was Rabbi Shmuel Bar Shilat. So he told them, Rav said to Rabbi Shmuel Bar Shilat, when I'll pass away, you will be the one who will do the eulogy. So when you make the eulogy, let's first see it in the origin of the source. Achim behespeda dehagim dehatam kaimna. Achim behespeda, meaning when you give the eulogy, be fervent. Be fervent. Say the words in my funeral, because I will be there to hear what you say. So it's not just theoretical. He told him, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be aware of what you're going to say. Now, okay, so this is the Gemara. Of course, during all the years, people would say, how? The person is dead. How he could hear? How could be aware of this, right? And here comes, and I'm start to quote now. I'm going to show you the quotes from the book of Dr. Raymond Moody, The Light Beyond. So here's the quote about what happened.
On Long Island, a 70-year-old woman who had been blind since the age of 18 was able to describe in vivid detail what was happening around her as doctors resuscitated her after a heart attack. Not only could she describe what the instrument used looked like, but she could even describe their colors. The most amazing thing about this to me was that most of these instruments weren't even thought of over 50 years ago when she could last see. On top of all this, she was even able to tell the doctor that he was wearing a blue suit when he began the resuscitation.
Let me explain how powerful this thing is. We're talking about a lady, she was 70 years old when she got a heart attack. Since the age of 18, she was blind, meaning until 18 she could see. After that, something happened, I don't know what, illness or accident, she could not see. She was blind for 52 years. At the age of 70, she came to this treatment. During the treatment, she has near-death experience. They revived her and bring her back to life. But even after she brought back to life, they could not return to her sight. She was blind before, she was blind after. She described that in between the time that her soul left the body, she was aware of what's going on. She could describe things that was not invented before she lost her sight. She described them in details, and she described even event that happened, that the doctor came probably in emergency, he was in rush without his uniform as a doctor, and then he wore them. So this is an amazing thing, because how could she see this? How could she could know this? The meaning is she didn't see through her physical eyes. When our neshama is in the body, the neshama is actually the one to see, but the neshama use the physical tools, which is the amazing cameras called eyes. When the neshama is out of the body, this is the amazing thing, that the neshama aware of the reality not through a physical eyes. And this is something that you could search. This is something that science could have to really is challenge how she could see. She obviously doesn't have a vision, not before, not after, only if in between, and she gave an accurate information. And this is not the only case. I'm giving you one of many, many cases. Let's continue. Let's see what else. The next thing will be information that we have in the Gemara. This Gemara is not the Talmud Bavli, but Talmud Yerushalmi, about what happened at the time of death and the few days after. So let's see it first in the words of the Gemara in Talmud Yerushalmi, Masechet Moed Katan, Daf Yud Aleph. The Gemara says the following: Kol Tlat Hayomin, all 3 days after a person passes away, Nafsha Taisa Al Gufa, the soul floats over the body. Remember, this information is written, is in writing 1800 years ago. The neshama float, remember this, float over the body 3 days. Sephirah di chazra legabi. The neshama think that the neshama going to go back to the body. When after 3 days something happened in the look of the face of a person who passed away, when the neshama realized that the face started to change, then the neshama understood it's irreversible. That's it. I'm not going to go back into this body right now. So this is information from the Gemara. What we learn from this? Few things. Number one, the neshama, after separating the body, still connected to the body, it's floating above it. And another piece of information very interesting, the neshama is in confusion. In the beginning, she do not really understand what happened. It takes time, 3 days, it says over here, until she realizes it's irreversible. Okay? That's the information from the Gemara. Now I'm going to show you an amazing information that Dr. Raymond Moody, he bring few of the many interviews that he did with patients that went through near-death experience. Look at the next one.
Another person who was in a horrible accident in which he lost 2 of his limbs remembered lingering over his body on the operating table and feeling sorry for the maimed person on it. Then he realized it was him.
You see all the information floating above, not realizing, not understanding in the beginning what's going on, then realizing that it's him. If you compare it to the Gemara, it's amazing. The only thing that the Gemara was written 1800 years ago, and these are new research.
It's hard to hear the Rebbitzin speaking when she's reading.
Oh, okay. So you have. Thank you for mentioning that. Okay, we're gonna improve it. Okay, the next thing that we're gonna see is information from the Kabbalah. In the Sephirah Zohar, it says in Parashat Lech Lecha, miyom shenivra ha'olam. מיום שנברא העולם, since the day Hashem created the world, כל הנשמות שעתידות לעמוד בבני אדם, כולם קיימות לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא באותה הצורה ממש שעתידים להיות בעולם. Remember, state number 1 of the neshama is the when the neshama waiting upstairs to its time to come to this world. So the Zohar says to us that they have a frame, a form, not physical, a spiritual form, that is exactly the way their body gonna be when they will be in this world. Later on, when they will be connected to a body. But listen to the continuation. כמו כן, same, לאחר שנפטרים מן העולם הזה, when the neshama separate the body and leave this world, what happened to the neshama, says the Zohar? כל הנשמות עולות, והקדוש ברוך הוא מזמן להם צורה אחרת להתלבש בה, כאין הצורה שהיו מלובשים בה בעולם הזה. When the neshama leave the body, the neshama gonna get, Hashem will get the neshama a spiritual form, frame, spiritual, that looks exactly like the body that the neshama has in this world, and the neshama will be in this tzura, in this form, until the zman of Tchiyas HaMeisim. So when the neshama is up there after 120, it's in this frame. This information is very, very interesting. It's written again in the Zohar. And if you compare it to an amazing thing that Dr. Raymond Moody bring in his book, look at this story.
ND ears often, no, you can't hear?
No.
Okay, ND ears often feel fear at this point, which then gives way to perfect understanding of what is going on. They can understand what the doctors and nurses are trying to convey to each other, even though they frequently have no formal medical training. But when they try to talk to them or other people present, no one is able to see or hear them. At this point, they may try to attract the attention of the people present by touching them. But when they do, their hands go right through the person's arm as though nothing was there. This was described to me by a woman I personally resuscitated. I saw her have a cardiac arrest and immediately started chest massage. She told me later that while I was working on restarting her heart, she was going up above her body and looking down. She was standing behind me, trying to tell me to stop, that she was fine where she was. When I didn't hear her, she tried to grab my arm to keep me from inserting a needle in her arm for injecting intravenous fluid. Her hand passed right through my arm. But when she did that, she later claimed that she felt something that was the consistency of very rarefied gelatin that seemed to have an electric current running through it.
Now again, if we just take the information that we have here, the description are, they identify themselves not with the body that's on the table. When they say I, they mean the one who is above the table. Now they try to interfere. It's interesting that they know everything, even that they never learned it. They're familiar with medical things and notion and information that they never learned. And because a decision going to be made, at this case at least, on the operation room, related to them, they felt that they have what to say about it. And very interesting, they say, don't do it. If they have pain, when the neshama separate the body, there's no pain anymore. So the neshama knows that the minute the neshama will go back to the body, the pain will start again. So they do not want to do it. So when the doctors tried to revive her, she said no, or she tried to prevent him. The most amazing thing over here is that she has a hand. She tried with a hand, but this hand is not a physical hand. She tried to draw his attention by moving his hand, but it doesn't work because it's not a physical hand. So what we learn from this, that there is a frame, a form, because she has a hand aside from the body of her that was on the table, right? So if you compare it, it's amazing how the Zohar explained that many, many years before. Let's continue to, again, an amazing information that mentioned in our sources, and now we're talking about a Gemara in Maseches Brachas that bring a Baraita about the famous Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, at the last day of his life, he was about to pass away, so his Talmidim, his students, disciples, came to visit him, and when it was right before he passed away, the Gemara bring the following: בשעת פטירתו, כשחלה רבן יוחנן בן זכאי, נכנסו תלמידיו לבקרו. בשעת פטירתו אמר להם, what was the last words that he has to say to them? He said the following: פנו כלים מפני הטומאה, והכינו כיסא לחזקיהו מלך יהודה שבא. Clear the house from all the furnitures and everything, because if I'm about to die, and when a person is dying, it's metame everything that was in the room, betumat oil. So take all the furnitures and all the things that you do not want them to be tame out, and prepare a chair, a nice, proper chair for a very special guest that I see coming here. You know who is that? Chizkiyahu melech Yehuda. Says Rashi, Chizkiyahu sheba elai lelavoti. He came to me to escort me from here to my place in the where we're in Olam HaEmes, where I'm going. So we find here information about a great person, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. Imagine if from Shamayim they sent to him Chizkiyahu melech Yehuda. By the way, the distance in history was about 600 years at least between Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, Ptira, to the time that Chizkiyahu melech Yehuda. And Chizkiyahu was one of the greatest tzaddikim, Chizkiyahu melech Yehuda, and he was sent to escort Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai to its place in Olam HaEmet. So what we find over here, that b'shas Ptira, a person see people who lived in the world before him that come to escort him. That's what we learn from this Gemara. Another thing, another information is again in Sephirah Zohar, in Sefer Bereshit, but now not in Parashat Lech Lecha, but Parashat Vaychi, says the Zohar the following: למדנו, בשעה שאדם מת, ניתן לו רשות לראות. At the time of the death, a person has permission or ability to see things that when the Neshama was in the body, when he was alive, he could not see. So what is he seeing? ורואה אצלו קרוביו וחבריו מעולם האמת. קרוביו, meaning relatives, family relatives. חבריו are peers, not relatives. מעולם האמת, meaning people who passed away before. So he see them. והוא מכיר אותם. And he recognized them. How? Because they are in a spiritual body in the frame or the form of their physical body that used to be. So if he knew them then, he know them now. וכולם חקוקים הם בצורתם כמו שהיו בעולם הזה. They look the same, but spiritually. ואם זכאי הוא אותו אדם, הם שמחים לקראתו ומקדימים לו שלום. They came to him, and if he is a tzaddik or zakai, not to, they happy for him, and say, Shalom, shalom meaning shlemut, perfect. It's good that you came good, you came in the way you're supposed to come. So what we find over here, again from the Zohar, that there is such a thing. Hashem sent relatives or peers, and a person see them, and they come to him to escort him to where he's going to go. So that's the second source. Another source, in the Gemara Maseches Ksubis, Gemara במסכת כתובות בדף קד says the following: בשעה שהצדיק נפטר מן העולם, when a tzaddik passed away from the world, 3 כיתות של מלאכי השרת יוצאות לקראתו. מלאכים. Here we're not talking about human beings, not חזקיהו מלך יהודה, but angels. מלאכי השרת. 3 כיתות, 3 groups. They coming to escort the tzaddik. So aside from relatives, in addition to relatives or peers, malachim came toward a tzaddik. בשעה שהרשע נפטר מן העולם, 3 כיתות של מלאכי חבלה יוצאות לקראתו. They came to accept him to wherever he goes, but not good angels, if he is a Rasha. Okay? So, again, what's the information that we have from now? Until now? That there is such a thing that people come, or messengers come to escort the person. The person see them, recognize them. Another last very interesting information is in the Ramban. The Ramban wrote a book called Torat Adam, and over there is a place called Sha'ar Agmul at the end of it. And the Ramban relate to a very interesting Gemara in Maseches Brachos, that the Gemara Brachos, בפרק שלישי, in Daf Yudchet, the Gemara discuss a very interesting question. People who passed away and left relatives and people that they are very close to in this world, after they leave this world, are they knowing what's going on in this world? Are they interested of what's going on? And there is all sugi in the Gemara over there. The Gemara brings an amazing story about 2 girls that passed away before they were bat mitzvah. Little girls passed away and they were buried next to each other in the cemetery. There is also, you know what, I see that I have a problem of time, as usual. That happened to me every time. And we are before the half of the information. So what I suggest is, maybe if our time now is limited, we'll not finish the entire thing, but I will not cut off the details because they are interesting. So let's cover as much as we cover, and then we'll divide it to 2 parts, and the next part we'll give maybe tomorrow instead of the topic of tomorrow. I'll advise with Rav later what to do. But anyway, look at this. The Gemara says that those 2 young girls were buried next to each other. But one of them were buried properly, and the other one was not. When they bury a dead person, they not cover her in the right way, whatever. So that was the background of the amazing story that the Gemara brings. The Gemara brings a story about Maaseh b'Chasid Echad. The Gemara is not here. Maaseh b'Chasid Echad was a story about Chassid. Chassid doesn't mean not Litvish. Chassid mean Chassid. We're talking about the time of the Gemara, before Chasidus. Okay? Maaseh b'Chasid Echad that got into a fight with his wife. Can you imagine? A Chassid? Also, it was a Shalom Bayit issue. It was Erev Rosh Hashanah. And the wife told him, when you finish davening in shul, don't come home. I'll lock the door. You have no way to come back to this house tonight. So, what could he do? He finished davening, and he has nowhere to go. And he has to sleep, because tomorrow they're at Kiyas Shofar. So, he looked for a place to sleep. He could not find anywhere but the cemetery. So he went to the cemetery and put his head near one of the graves, trying to fall asleep. It happened that it was near these graves of those 2 girls, that was Jewish girls that was buried next to each other. And it was Erev Rosh Hashanah. Then he heard them talking. He heard a conversation between those 2 girls. So one of them said to her friend, let's go together, and because today is Rosh Hashanah, let's hear what's the decision gonna be about what's gonna be in the world in the next year. The decision made today. Okay, come with me, let's go. So her friends told her, I could not go with you because I'm not buried properly, but you could go. Go, come back and tell me, what did you hear? All of this he's hearing before he fell asleep. So at this point he was curious and he didn't fall asleep. He waited until she will come back. She came back and she told her friends what happened in the court upstairs, what's going to happen. One of the things was, she informed her, this year, in Eretz Yisrael, only in the winter there are rain. It's not like here in New York or here in the West Coast that you have rain all year long. Only in the winter. So it's Rosh Hashanah, the end of the summer, fall. So the information was the following. This year, the rain will delayed. It will not come in the beginning of the winter. The usual time that the rain is usually come, will not happen this year. So this Chassid he was a real estate guy also, and he has field. And after he heard this information, he came back home. Okay, well, Shalom Bayit, and he went back home, but he got this information. When everyone was cultivating their field, they put the seeds waiting for the rain. He didn't do it. He waited because he knew that the rain, he heard that the rain will be late. So they put all the other agricultures did it, and no rain. He waited, he put it later, and he got big multiple crop because of his information. Next year, he said, I'm going to go lie down over there the same without fighting with my wife, because there are very interesting information that I could gain. So he went, and he heard again, same conversation. It's Rosh Hashanah. Let's go see or hear what's going to be decided about what's going to happen the next year. And again, the friend told her, I told you last year I could not come with you. You go, you come back and tell me. So the Neshama of this girl told her, I cannot tell you. I will go, but I will not tell you. Why? Because last time when I told you, the information was leaked to a person that's not supposed to know about it, and it's not proper. Okay, this is the Gemara. Over this Gemara, there is a Ramban. The Ramban says the following. וכן הנשמות מספרות זו עם זו, כמו שזכרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה in the Gemara Maseches Brachos, דף י"ח. And here the Ramban add the following. ואין הכוונה לסיפור שפה וחיתוך לשון. Because we're talking about neshamas without a body. They have no mouth, they have no vocal cord. So what is the meaning that they were talking to each other? Says the Ramban, אין הכוונה לסיפור שפה וחיתוך לשון, אך שיש הודעה והשגה לנפשות זו מזו. It's not words, it's telepathic communication. That's what the Ramban says 900 years ago about the Gemara that was written 1800 years ago. Okay? So another piece, very interesting piece of information. What do you mean when we learned before that Chizkiah Melech Yehuda ba, the Malachim come, or קרוביו וחבריו, the relatives of the person come and they שמחים לקראתו, והם אומרים, how they talk. Says the Ramban, it's not words, it's telepathic communication. Okay? The last thing that we're going to see today is, again, one of the many interviews that Dr. Moody made about people who went through NDE. Listen to this.
Once through the tunnel, the person usually meets beings of light. These beings aren't composed of ordinary light. They glow with a beautiful and intense luminescence that seems to permeate everything and fill the person with love. In this situation, NDEers frequently meet up with friends and relatives who had died. Often they speak of these people as being in the same indescribable bodies as theirs. In this state, communication doesn't take place in words as we know them, but in telepathic, nonverbal ways that result in immediate understanding.
Wow, interesting. So everything that we just read from the Zohar, from the Yerushalmi, from all the other sources, and from the Ramban about telepathic communication, now people all over the world, by the way, this research was done not just by Jews, by everyone who went through this. And all of them describe these things. Tunnel, meeting people, and other being of light talking to them, and the communication is through telepathy. This is very, very interesting. And again, we just started the comparison. I told you the major things are the things called the life review, but I guess that our time is limited and we'll make a break maybe here, maybe continue it later. I don't know, what's the Rav think about it?
I don't think the Rav is still on.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Are we really limited in time? I mean, we have to finish here, or we could continue, or continue tomorrow. What do you think?
I don't mind continuing.
I vote continuing. Let's continue.
But it could take more than 5 minutes.
I think we could definitely do another 10 to 15 minutes. Would that work?
Yeah.
For me,
Yeah, the question is if all the people are ready.
Anybody who needs to
And
go,
if
go.
those people that need to leave, they'll leave.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Fine. So, if we continue, just 1 minute. Okay.
Remember,
Okay. There are a few more things. Let's just do this. Okay.
this is from the Journal of the American Society for Psychical Research. A man who had survived a car crash, this is about remembering details. A man who had survived a car crash described in details the person who had rescued him. A lady who had been clinically dead while giving birth to a child described what her mother was doing at that time 500 miles away. Dr. Michael Sabam et al. Conducted a thorough investigation on 61 patients, ages 19 to 76, who had NDE experiences. Most of them had remembered many details. None of them had made any mistakes.
Okay. The next thing that I want to show from our sources again, and again do the comparison, is the tunnel and the light at the end of the tunnel. In the Zohar, in Parashat Vayichi, דף רי"ח, it says the following: בזמן ההוא, כשמגיעה השעה שתהיה נפרדת הנפש מן הגוף, at the time when the Neshama is separating the body, אין הנפש יוצאת מן הגוף עד שתתגלה עליו השכינה. The person see the שכינה, תתגלה עליו השכינה, והנפש מתוך שמחת וחביבות השכינה יוצאת כנגדה מן הגוף. Because the Neshama do not use to a situation that the Neshama is out of the body. In order for the Neshama to be out of the body, there is something powerful that could she identify or want to be with it. And this is the Shechina, whatever it is. It's a Giloi shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a... Okay, so the Zohar says that, and this is basically, by the way, is what written in the Torah, Ki lo yir'ani ha'adam v'chai. So the Medrash says, כי לא יראני האדם וחי, בחייהם אינם רואים, אבל במיתתם רואים. And when a person passed away, the Neshama exposed to גילוי שכינה, and that what makes the Neshama מתוך חביבות, meaning the Neshama wants to be connected to the Shechina. That's what the Zohar says. Now, look at what people describe in the interviews.
After meeting several beings in light, the NDEer usually meets a supreme being of light. Can hear?
No. Oh, yes.
Can you hear me now? Great.
Yes.
Thank you. After meeting several beings in light, the NDEer usually meets a supreme being of light. Whoever he is, the being radiates total love and understanding, so much so that most people want to be with it forever, but they can't. At this point, they are told, usually by the being of light, that they have to return to their earthly body. But first, it's his job to take them on a life review.
Okay, those are the interviews. I mean, everyone interpret their interviews the way it is, but they speak here about the supreme being of light. That's the light at the end of the tunnel, and they feel that they want to be connected to, and they feel very good with it. That's exactly what the Zohar says, chavivut and gilui shchina. Very interesting, the parallel over here. The last thing that I think, I'm sorry that should be not in many, many details, the last thing that we're going to see now is the life review. What is the life review? Many of the people who went through near-death experience describe that before they returned back, revived, and the Neshama came back to the body, they saw every detail that happened to them in their life. It doesn't matter if they live 30, 40, or 70, or 80 years. In those few minutes that the Neshama was out of the body, at the end of it, they experience oh, I'm also muted here now.
You know how to unmute? Go back to here.
No, I can't. He has to.
I can't hear anything.
Okay, now I was muted, and now I'm unmuted. So now you could hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So they described that they saw all the details that happened to them in their life. It doesn't matter how long they lived, 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, or 80 years. They see everything that happened to them in details, and they report about this. So here we'll switch the order. First, we'll see what the researchers or the interview says about what they saw, and then I'll show you for the end of the year a source in the Gemara and source in the Zohar about this. But first, let's see what the NDRs says about this amazing experience. Just 1 minute. Okay.
When the life review occurs, there are no more physical surroundings. In their place is a full-color, three-dimensional panoramic review of every single thing the NDEers have done in their lives. This usually takes place in a third-person perspective and doesn't occur in time as we know it. The closest description I've heard of this, it is that the person's whole life is there at once. In this situation, you not only see every action that you have ever done, but you also perceive immediately the effects of every single one of your actions upon the people in your life. So, for instance, if I see myself doing an unloving act, then immediately I'm in the consciousness of the person I did that act to, so that I feel their sadness, hurt, and regret. On the other hand, if I do a loving act to someone, then I am immediately in their place, and I can feel the kind and happy feelings. Through all of this, the being is with those people, asking them what good they have done with their lives. He helps them through this review and helps them put all the events of their life in perspective. All of the people who go through this come away believing that the most important thing in their life is love. For most of them, the second most important thing in life is knowledge. As they see life scenes in which they are learning things, the being points out that one of the things they can take with them at death is knowledge. The other is love.
Okay, so this is it. This is the interview that was made with many, many people all over the world, all ages, all backgrounds. They explain or say, some of them describe this life review. It's very interesting that the time that maximum could take since the heart stopped beating to when you could revive the person without causing damage, without damage happening to their brain, is the most 3-4 minutes. But still, they said that in this time they could see 80 years of life with details about what happened every day and every second. Now, their conclusion is, after they went through this, they asked them afterward, "Does that change anything in your life?" They said, "Yes." Now we have much more appreciation to two things: love, which is in the Torah language chesed, and knowledge, meaning they start to want to know everything. And this is the Torah and Gmilas Chasodim, and that's what that was a deduction or the conclusion of them. Let me show you now, as I said, two sources. One is in the Gemara, one is in the Zohar, and with that we will conclude this. The Gemara in Tainis, Daf Yud Aleph, says the following: בשעת פטירתו של האדם לבית עולמו, כל מעשיו נפרטים לפניו. All his deeds and action come to it in details. ואומרים לפניו, כך וכך עשית במקום פלוני. You did this and this in a certain place, in a certain day, והוא אומר הן. He said, yes, I did. ואומרים לו חתום וחותם, sign it, and he signed it, שנאמר, ביד כל אדם יחתום. He has to sign it. ולא עוד אלא שמצדיק עליו את הדין ואומר להם, יפה דנתוני. And he said, you write with your judgment, the din is true. לקיים מה שנאמר, למען תצדק בדובריך. What the Gemara is actually telling us. מראים לאדם, כל מעשיו נפרטים לפניו. They see the movie of their life. And therefore they could not deny anything. They see themselves. Therefore, it's you, right? Right. Sign it. He signed it. And he said, and I understand that the things that I did, those are the consequences of them. שנאמר למען תצדק בדובריך. This is the Gemara. The Zohar says basically the same thing. He adding few more interesting stuff. Let's see. The Zohar says the following in פרשת לך לך. בואו ראה, come and see. ביום שנשלמו ימיו של אדם לצאת מן העולם, at the day when a person finishes time in this world, אז ניתן רשות לאדם לראות מה שלא היה יכול לראות בעת ששלט הגוף. As we said before, he got a permission, he got ability to see things that he didn't see when he was covered by his physical body. הוא משיג דבר על בוריו, and he sees things clearly, the way they are. ואז עומדים עליו שלושה שליחים. There are three forces or angel in charge of it. וחושבים ימיו, they calculate his days, וחטאיו, and his sins, וכל מה שעשה בעולם הזה, good and not good, everything that he did in this world. והוא מודה על הכל בפיו, he admit everything. ואחר כך חותם עליו בידו, as the Gemara says, he has to sign it. ובידו כולם חתומים לדון אותו באותו עולם, in the עולם האמת, על ראשונים ועל אחרונים, על חדשים ועל ישנים, אף אחד מהם אינו נשכח. There is no missing information. Everything is there, and this is what our sources told us. Again, if you compare it to the interviews, they say the same. They say the same. We tend to, not to think it's so important, everything that we did, even good things, kol sheken, not good things. So we did it. No, it's there. The impact is there. The picture is there. One day you're going to see the movie of your life. So when we are aware of this, we will try to be a better producer, to create a nice movie that when we'll see it, we'll have happiness, not sadness. The hope, in a way, it's very interesting, nostalgic, wow, one day I'll remember all the good stuff that happened to me in my life, but it's a package deal. It's not that the good thing, also the not too good things. What could we do? Because I don't want to finish this shiur, this class, this lecture, leaving people in some way of depression. I want to give hope, okay? So the hope is the following. Shlomo HaMelech, in Sefer Mishle, give him a shalim to explain deep stuff. When he speaks about the Neshama, there is a pasuk in Sefer Mishle in Perek Kaf, pasuk Kaf. Ner Hashem nishmat Adam chofes kol chadrei baten. Ner Hashem, Nishmat Adam. The Neshama of a person, the Nishmat Adam, is like a candle. Like a candle. Why Shlomo Melech wanted to compare the Neshama to a candle? And actually, what does he mean? What is the meaning that the Neshama is like a candle? In a candle, there are two major parts. The body of the candle and the flame. When Shlomo Melech says that the Neshama is like the Ner, he means the flame. The flame is up on the candle. When the candle is new and fresh, there is a good, beautiful body of the candle and the flame up. But what happened when the time passed? The body of the candle melting slowly but surely until the end. And then what happened? Then the flame could not have place to stay anymore and it separated. And this is the mashal. There is a famous line. I don't have time now, so I'll just say it in brief. It says, look at this picture. If you remember this picture from the entire lecture, from the entire shiur, that one made it. This is the picture. I'm going to show you. You heard about wax museum? Wax museum, right? Famous figures, political. There's a museum. I want to show you a person in wax. Person that each one of you know for sure. And look about on the line under. This is the picture. Do you recognize this picture? Do you know this person? Yes, you know. This is each one of us. When we were born, we were shiny and new, and then time passed, and the body became weaker and weaker, melting. The flame is up there. Because we know it, we should know the famous line. A man is a soul. A man's soul is a candle of God. As long as the flame is still burning, you can fix. So don't be depressed about not good things that happened in your life that you were in charge for, because you could switch them. You could change them. You could edit them. And when you do it in the right way, it will not be in your life story, in the movie that you want to see. That's what we could cover in this year. Thank you for listening, and I'm sorry that it went over the time. We didn't actually finish the topic because the topic is bigger and with a lot of details, but in brief, I think this is the message. Body and soul, the connection between them. To know who you are, da et atzmecha, know who you are. When you know what you are, you're not just a body, you are soul in the body. And everything is matter, is significant. Therefore, let's hope and try and pray to Hashem, daven to Hashem, that will help us to conduct our life in the right way, and that will be the benefit of this shiur. Thank you very much for listening. This is the shiur, and from now on, if you want to ask questions, I don't know if that's a makubal over here to do a discussion and answer a question. Could you push the button?
Thank you very much.
I
Thank you so much, Rabbi.
You're welcome, you're welcome.